But with that said, let's get to the topic of the day. And unfortunately, the topic of the day, it's a little bit serious. It's not very fun. It is COVID continuing to wreak havoc on the sports that we all know and love. Just as I get set to record here on a Thursday night, biggest story in sports, I believe, bigger than the college football playoff, bigger than the NFL playoff push, bigger than Urban Meyer being fired. It is what is going on in COVID. As I get set to record here, Browns and Raiders supposed to play Saturday night. Remember, Saturday games in the NFL after college football season ends. That game's very much in jeopardy and may get postponed. On top of that, NBA games postponed left and right over the last few weeks. NHL games, it's much the same. College sports now seems to be impacted more and more as we get closer and closer to the middle of winter. Just since I last recorded, Seton Hall, Iona, big game, Saturday, Madison Square Garden, world's most famous arena, out. Kentucky, Ohio State. Ohio State tests positive, can't travel, not playing. What does that mean? Thousands of fans that spent thousands of dollars, especially Ohio State fans, are not going to get to go to the game that they paid for. And so I could beat around the bush and I could do that. Let me just get to the point and we'll work our way backwards. The point of this segment, the point of this topic is that at the end of the day, I've reached my breaking point. I've tried to be patient. I've tried to be quiet. I've tried to be calm. But my job is to talk to you man to man, man to woman, whatever, and just be 100% honest with you on how I feel about the biggest stories in sports at all times. And right now, I'm just going to say it. It is officially time. We need to stop canceling sporting events because players test positive. End of story, end of debate, end of whatever. We can discuss over the next 4 or 5 minutes, but I'm just telling you that's where I stand, and let's work our way backwards. Before we get into kind of the specifics of the last couple days, specifics of why we need to stop canceling sporting events, let me even backtrack and just let everybody know, 30,000-foot view, where I stand on a couple things, just so you know, and if you disagree, you want to turn it off, you want to throw your phone in the garbage, say, yeah, I hate Torres, I don't like this guy, whatever, that's fine, but at least we know where I stand. One, first of all, let me start by saying I don't enjoy talking what I would deem a political topic. Sports are supposed to be fun. I got into this because they're fun. And you guys have enough seriousness, guys and girls, in your lives that you don't need to come here to hear me yell and rant and scream about really important things, right? But I don't, and so let me even backtrack. If you feel like, you know what, I just don't want to hear this, Torres, not today, not right now, I get it. Fast forward 5-10 minutes, we'll talk National Signing Day, we'll talk Urban Meyer, we'll have a little bit of fun. But I don't believe that this is a political topic. This is a sports topic now as games are getting canceled left and right. And what I would also say on top of that is I think you guys kind of know where I stand on this topic on COVID in sports and where I've stood from the beginning. Many of you found this podcast because of where I stood on COVID a year ago, a year and a half ago, when there was real talk that we were going to cancel college football, and it was canceled in the Big Ten and Pac-12 for a while there. And when there was real talk that games shouldn't be played, NFL, college, NBA, whatever. And I said, look, I don't have all the answers, but I believe that we can find a way. I believe that we should find a way. And it's important to note that even at that time, and this is important, okay, because I think a lot of you think, oh, Torres, you don't care about the health and safety. No. But I said at that time, I said, look, I know it's not going to be easy, and I don't have all the answers. I'm not saying just send them out there, no problems, no testing, no nothing. That's not what I was saying even back then. I was saying, I understand there's going to be positive tests. I understand that we're going to have to cancel games. I understand that games are going to be postponed. I understand that you're going to be scheduled to play somebody and then have to play somebody else on 1 day's notice or 5 days' notice or 3 days' notice or whatever. I get all that. I get that players are going to have to live in isolation, and the ones that didn't want to last year were allowed to opt out. But I said we needed to find a way. We needed to move on. We needed to press forward. We needed sports, and the athletes themselves needed sports, and we got them. And so I'm really happy about that. But even back then, I claimed that I didn't have the answers. But I did believe that I understood why games, even back then, I understood why games were going to get canceled, why games were going to get postponed, whatever. The problem is a lot has changed since then. We have a lot of new information. We have vaccines. And so that is why I am at the point where I'm at today. And I remember the time that my opinion on all this shifted, okay, where it went from cautious but move forward, cautious but we're going to have to cancel games, cautious but this, to where I am now, which is we just got to play, stop testing, stop this, stop that. And I know exactly when it was. And it was actually a while ago. I don't even think I talked about it on this podcast. But do you remember in the middle of, I want to say it was about early to mid-June, we get to the NBA playoffs. They're great. I criticize the NBA a lot. They put on a darn good product in the postseason. And we get to the Western Conference Finals. It's sometime in early to mid-June. And Chris Paul tests positive for COVID and has to miss Game 1 and Game 2 of the NBA playoffs, or the Western Conference Finals. And immediately, everybody went into, well, he must not be vaccinated. Well, that. And then we found out he's vaccinated. And even at that time, I said, So why is he sitting out if he's vaccinated? I thought the vaccine was supposed to allow us to get back to normal. Why is he being punished for doing what's right? Because ultimately, if he's vaccinated, he's protected. Anybody else that is vaccinated is protected. So really, the only people that are quote-unquote unprotected are players that haven't gotten the vaccine that know the risks. Even back in June, we kind of knew. Like, if you want the vaccine, you can get it. And if you don't get it, that's on you. You are moving forward in life, making your own decision. And so even back in June, I said, we got to play these games. We got to keep going. We can't keep canceling sporting events. We have to move forward in our lives. Heck, I went to Cancun. I traveled in the middle of the summer during what some people weren't comfortable to. The point is, even back in June and July, I was like, we got to play games. We got to play games. And now here we are 6 months after that, and we're still canceling games, and it makes no sense. And it makes no sense for, in my opinion, 4 different reasons. One, most of the players are vaccinated, right? Again, why do we get vaccines? To protect ourselves, to make sure that we're safe, to make sure that we're safe from viruses. Well, we remember the campaign by major college sports, by the NFL, by the NBA, for players to get vaccinated. Some, Aaron Rodgers, Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, whoever, have decided not to. That's their personal choice. I have no fundamental objection about it, okay? But at the same time, most of the players are vaccinated. So why are we canceling games when the guys that are testing positive are, for the most part, vaccinated? The whole point of getting vaccinated is so you can move on with your life. If you come into contact with the virus, we now have indisputable data that if you're vaccinated and you come into contact with the virus, you're probably going to be okay. You're probably going to have mild symptoms. And let's be honest, if these athletes weren't getting tested as often as they were, most of them would never even know they had the vaccine, had the virus. So that's one. All these guys are vaccinated. Why are we canceling games when the vast majority of these guys are vaccinated? Two, it's like I just said a minute ago. Anyone who's not vaccinated understands the risks. We have to stop protecting the unvaccinated when they don't feel the need to protect themselves, or they feel that they're protected because of natural immunity or because they just don't think they need the vaccine. So if ultimately we're canceling these games for health and safety, well, the people that are vaccinated are healthy and safe because we know that, because we know the vaccine limits the seriousness of the virus. And then two, the unvaccinated feel safe too. So why are we canceling games to protect the small minority that refuses to get the vaccine or has no interest in the vaccine when they know the risks, they understand the consequences, and they're willing to play? Three, and I've said this since last April, May, June. I said, I don't have all the answers, but the one thing I know is this. And this was before the vaccine too. I said, these athletes have access to the best medical professionals in the world. So I can say even before the vaccine, I don't believe or I have not heard of a single professional or college athlete having serious health effects, serious hospitalization or death. Thank goodness. I'm happy I'm not doing a victory lap. But even before the vaccine, I remember saying this. I said, guys, these guys and girls have access to the best medical professionals in the world. UCLA had to cancel their game on Wednesday night. If, God forbid, things got so bad at UCLA that guys and girls were seriously getting sick, guess what? The UCLA Medical Center is literally on campus. I was on the UCLA campus 3 weeks ago for the UCLA-Villanova game. That's one of the best hospitals in the world. These athletes have the best treatment in the world. Same with Duke Medical Center, Johns Hopkins Medical Center. Some of the best hospitals on planet Earth are on these college campuses. And so most of the players are vaccinated. The ones that aren't vaccinated understand the risks, and they have access to the best medical professionals in the world. Finally, let me just wrap on this. While most of these guys are vaccinated, we also understand at this point now, it's indisputable, that the vaccine does not protect people across the board from catching the virus. What it does is it protects you from getting very sick, okay? So why is that important to me at this particular time? It is because we now have the data that we need to move forward. We've moved forward in every other walk of life. People have gotten vaccinated. Some have gotten their boosters. It's their choice. It's whatever. Some are unvaccinated, but they know the risk and they understand kind of the cost-benefit analysis of everything when they go out into the real world. They know what they now feel safe enough to go eat at restaurants. Trust me, I go to restaurants all the time. They're packed. They know they go to the nail salon. They do this. They go to games as fans. And so when I look at this entire situation, what I believe is most important to realize in terms of why we need to keep playing these games is because we now know that the vaccine is not going to stop the virus. We now know, and I hate to be yelling and screaming and ranting, we now know that we have to learn how to live with this virus. This virus is not going away because of a vaccine or a booster shot or whatever. And so I bring it up just to say that at this point, at some point, we are going to have to decide as a sporting community, whether it's the NCAA, whether it's the NFL, whether it's the NBA, whether it's the NHL. At some point, we are going to have to accept that we are not going to eradicate this virus, and so we can't keep guys out that catch the virus. We can't postpone games. If we keep going, when does it end? In 2027? Like 2028, 2029, 2024, 2023? Like, when do we decide that, you know what, we have enough data to know that we're never going to eradicate this virus, so we just need to keep playing games and work through it? I believe the time is now. The vaccine has been out for a year. We have gone through basically 2 cold and flu cycles late in February last year into March and April, all the way into now November, December of 2021. We now know that this vaccine is not going to eliminate the virus. And so at some point, we are going to have to allow our athletes to play games while testing positive for this virus. As a matter of fact, that's my solution. A lot of you say, well, yeah, it probably doesn't make sense. Well, what do we do? I got an idea. How about we just don't test guys that are vaccinated? We don't test guys that are asymptomatic. This is the part that makes no sense to me. If you're vaccinated and you're not showing symptoms, why are you getting tested? And to me, it's no different than the flu. And I'm not going to get into the debate of the flu versus COVID versus this versus that. But I think we all know at this point that COVID, especially in young, healthy athletes that are playing in these sports, it is not going to, adversely affect them in the way. And so to me, it just comes down to exactly what I just said a minute ago. I don't think we need to test these guys anymore, especially if they're asymptomatic, especially if they're vaccinated. If they show symptoms, we treat it like the flu. We test them. If they're sick, we get them away from their teammates. And ultimately, that's no different than how we treat any other virus. We don't test every day for the flu. We don't test every week for the flu. We don't test every month for the flu. We don't test every week for the flu when everybody on the team has a flu shot. But the flu still affects college basketball teams, NBA teams, college football teams, whatever. I think I've told this story before, but I remember talking 3, 4, 5 years ago. I talked to a buddy of mine, college basketball assistant coach, at what I would deem to be a high mid-major. In other words, it's not Duke, Kentucky, UCLA, Kansas. But it's not Central Connecticut, Eastern Kentucky, Eastern Washington either. It was kind of in that middle tier, Atlantic 10, Mountain West, AAC, Missouri Valley level of college basketball, where they got it good, but they don't got it Duke good. They got it good, but they don't got it North Carolina good. And I remember talking to him, and he said, dude, Torres, you know what our number one issue this time of year? It's not grades, it's not academics, it's not parents, it's not injuries, it's not wear and tear. It's the flu. We can't travel charter. We can't put these guys in their individual hotel rooms. We travel in commercial planes, and we got them in 2 to a room or 4 to a room or whatever it is on the road. And so when we go on the road, every single time we're susceptible. And so to me, ultimately, COVID is now at the point where it's no different than the flu. We have the data. We have the information. We have the understanding. I'm not saying that it can't be serious for certain people, certain segments of the population. But we are now officially at the point. We can't keep canceling everything. At some point, we have to move forward. And we talk about courage now. Oh, it's courageous to do this. It's courageous to do that. Well, it's going to be courageous to be the first professional sports team that just says, we're not testing anymore. We're done. We're over it. I don't know if it'll be Major League Baseball. I don't know if it'll be the NFL. I don't know if it'll be the NBA. Maybe it'll be the UFC. Dana White seems to be not afraid of this thing, got COVID, had his little commentary on COVID last week. I don't know. But you want to be courageous. Be the first one to say, you know what? We're not testing anymore. We understand the risks. If guys feel symptomatic, we will give them a test. If they test positive, we will get them away from everybody else. But we have healthy, vaccinated young men and women playing our sports. On top of that, we have taught them the risks of what this virus is like versus not. And it's time to move on. So that's my 14-minute COVID rant to lead the show. I know I went in a lot of different directions, but it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating, and it's time to move on. It's time to move on. It's time to play games. It's time to stop canceling sporting events because of COVID. Speaking of moving on, that's what I want to do. I want to take a quick break. I want to talk actual fun sports stuff. Deion Sanders, how about that guy? #1 recruit in the country. How about that first story? Talk a little bit about that, some other National Signing Day takeaways, and I will talk a little Urban Meyer. Not a ton, but this is a college sports show. Urban Meyer is one of the 2 most prominent college football coaches of the last probably 25 years since the turn of the century. We'll talk a little bit about Urban Meyer after the break.